Hello, everyone. Cecil Martin here.
Hey, this is Hunter Henry.
What's up, man? This is Max Crosby, part of Raider Nation.
Hey, this is Ross Tucker, former NFL offensive lineman.
Hey, it's Tyler Lockett of the Seattle Seahawks.
Hey, this is Jerry Judy, wide receiver for the Denver Broncos, and you're listening to the Full10Yard NFL podcast.
Hello and welcome back to the Full 10 Yards NFL podcast. I'm your host Sam Moores, and this is actually my third attempt at recording this because my microphone keeps muting itself. I don't know why, but we're here. We're going to give this another go. And what a week we've just seen. Week 13 was excellent. We had so many games with so many playoff implications. It was brilliant. It's just really thrown a spanner in the works. And I absolutely loved watching every single game this week as I've got so many notes to talk through. And there's only one place to start, and that's some Monday Night Football where, unfortunately, Trevor Lawrence has hurt his ankle. The Jags also had they lost. They went to overtime against the Bengals. The Bengals came away victorious. But obviously the main storyline here, other than the Bengals sort of getting a win with Jake Browning, is the fact that Lawrence has hurt his ankle. He sort of fake pumped the football, pulled the ball back in, and then was bulldozed to the ground before he could get the ball off again. Obviously he was sacked. And it was a sort of joint effort between his own player and also the Bengals defensive line too. They've called it an ankle sprain, but he is having an MRI today to check that. Hopefully it's nothing more than that. It's a cruel way it would be a cruel way for a season to end, and probably the Jags is too. If not any chance of them going far, they're not going to go very far with CJ Beathard, are they? Fingers crossed. Trevor Lawrence is okay. Obviously, this is a fun game. The Bengals winning, no one expected that. They look great as well with their white helmet as well. But it was just a shootout, back and forth. Nothing really separated these teams for a lot of the game. And it went all the way to overtime. It looked like the Jags would probably win this game in overtime. They had a deep ball from CJ Beathard to Calvin Ridley, but it looked to be complete, but it was wiped away with a holding call. Inside the 5. So it basically gave the Bengals life. The Jags were forced to punt, and the Bengals went down the field and won the game with a 47-yard Evan McPherson field goal. Which just shaken up the entirety of the AFC now, because not only are the Bengals still alive at 6-6, you've still got you've still got all the they probably still got a chance at getting in like seriously. That's what I mean, like at 6-6, but I'd probably say they're more talented teams. But what they do what they do have in their locker is the fact that they play most of the teams in the AFC wildcard race now. They still play Cleveland, they still play the Browns, and they got Indianapolis next week. They play Indianapolis on Sunday, so win that game, and that really does spice it up. Even if they don't make it, it will certainly make their season meaningful. The rest of it. And as for the Jags, obviously, if they won this game, they would have become the number 1 seed in the AFC after the Chiefs lost. And it was the Ravens on a bye week as well, so everyone sort of neutralises at that point. So now everyone has played the same amount of games. It's actually the Dolphins who are the number 1 seed after this, so I'm sure Dolphins fans are very happy at that. Then it's the Ravens at 9-3 behind them, and then there's the Chiefs and the Jags behind them. There, I think the Chiefs are just out of the Jags because of in conference wins or something like that. I think it's huge for the Jags, because you've now got the Texans behind them in the division, who could certainly win this division, only 1 game back now. Hopefully this isn't it for Lawrence's season. Hopefully he only misses a few games, but even then that could cost them this division. After this year, they've probably got 1 year left, so perhaps 2 of their Super Bowl window before they have to pay him. So they've only got limited time left with Trevor Lawrence before, and a good team before they have to, sacrifice the rest of the team for having their franchise quarterback around. So hopefully it's not too much. I really do hope, because especially, with us Brits, like, we see Lawrence every year. I've seen him twice this year. he's a real superstar. I hope he can become a superstar in the UK too. So yeah, having a player like that go down is just horrible. So hopefully it's just a couple of weeks out, because the Jags have got an excellent chance in this AFC. They've got an excellent chance of going really far in the playoffs this year, especially with how they looked last night. I thought the offense was excellent. So yeah, fingers crossed that Trevor Lawrence is okay. But we'll hear more about that later on today, I expect, as Tuesday, of course. Yeah, but that I was planning on putting this game quite low on the running order, but obviously after the Lawrence injury, it has to go right at the start. A bit of instant reaction, but yeah. Wow, that I was not expecting that when I woke up this morning. Let's just say that. We'll move over now to the big game, the one that everyone's talking about, because it's just spiced so many things up in the NFC this time, with the Niners beating the Eagles 42-19 and getting revenge over Philadelphia too, after they beat them and injured Brock Purdy in the NFC Championship game last year, and they sent the Eagles to 10-2 in the process. Obviously a huge win on the road too. The Niners were favourites on the road because Philly were a little bit banged up, but I thought the Eagles probably might be able to still do it at home, but wrong I was. I did pick the Niners in the end, but I honestly thought it could flip flop. And we thought it'd be such a good game, and it wasn't quite the game it was hyped up to be. But the implications this game has had on not only the top of the NFC, but also obviously the wild card race with Dallas and stuff. It's genuinely gonna be remembered for ages. It's a game that we will not forget, I don't think. Partly it's because of how dominant the Niners were. Their offense was excellent, and Philly just couldn't really stop it. Deebo Samuel was a star of the show in this game with 138 scrimmage yards and not one, not two, but 3 touchdowns. Christian McCaffrey too, he was excellent. He had 5 less scrimmage yards than Deebo at 133, and he also had a touchdown and averaged 5.5 yards per carry too. Those guys won the Niners this game. It shows that if you give playmakers the ball, they can make things happen, and especially with a team that's so good run off the catch or basically in space like the Niners are. The Eagles just couldn't deal with it, and that they might be worried about that because that's a quite common way of winning. The Lions, they play the Lions in the playoffs. The Lions have a very similar style, so the Eagles will be a bit discouraged by their defense in this game, but. Just full credit to the Niners, they were excellent. Brock Purdy was good, but the talk of him being in the MVP favourite now after this is an absolute joke in my opinion. He was good, yes, he's been good. I've been quite fair to Brock. I've been really praising his game the last couple of weeks, especially. I think he's been really good. But in this game, he was just good. It's not an MVP performance from him. No chance. They didn't win this game because of Brock Purdy. They won this game because of Deebo Samuel, because of Christian McCaffrey. That's why they won this game. They haven't beaten the Cowboys and the Eagles because of Brock Purdy. They've won it because of their skill position players and their defense. That's why they won those games. Again, Purdy's average depth of target in this game was 5.9 yards. He was just distributing the ball, just dink and dunk. He had one big time throw in this entire game. And people are calling that an MVP performance. I just think it's absolute madness, personally. I just don't agree with any of that. Also, the Cowboys offense that they beat, that the Niners beat, obviously their defense shut them down, but that's completely different to the Cowboys offense that's turned up the last couple of weeks. I was very critical of the Cowboys offense earlier in the season. I'm absolutely in love with it now, and I think that Dak Prescott is a way better MVP contender than I think Brock Purdy is right now. It's completely different. They've evolved, and I actually think that Tyreek Hill and Tua Tagovailoa, one of them, I probably should win the MVP over Brock Purdy, because they're adding so much more to their team than Brock Purdy is. You could have the Brock Purdy Tua debate. In my opinion, I see Tua who is actually probably playing the best I've ever seen him play football right now, and that's with Jalen Waddle, who's not been exceptional this year. That's with as Dan Orlovsky said, a bottom 10 offensive line. That's they change their offensive line up every week because Armstead's getting injured, Robert Hunt's getting injured. Liam Eichenberg and Austin Jackson are on this offensive line for the Dolphins. These are two guys who were considered busts before this season, and Tua is playing at an exceptionally high level. And if you then compare that to what Brock Purdy's had, his numbers are significantly less than Tua in the sort of quarterback. Obviously he's got a higher pass rating. He's got but the average depth of target, the touchdowns, the yards, that's where Tua Tagovailoa has the edge over Brock Purdy. And also, if we're being honest as well, he has actually put himself forward to win a game this year. He has won a game because, with his own play, and that was the Chargers game this year. I've not seen Brock Purdy this year. So you can sort of compare their styles and say, maybe two quarterbacks and, Shanahan systems, but I think there's a different level there. But I don't think Tua should win MVP. I think Tyreek Hill should win MVP. I think Tyreek Hill, he's a 2,000 yard. He's on pace of 2,000 yards. He's on pace to have the best season we've ever seen from any receiver ever. And with Dak as well, I've just given you two quarterbacks who are in similar situations to what Brock Purdy has, and they're doing better than Brock Purdy in that situation. That's why he's just not an MVP for me. And look, I just think it's ridiculous. I think it'll go to one of the. It'll go to either Dak or maybe Jalen Hurts if the Eagles beat the Cowboys next week. Or maybe I think it maybe go to one of the Dolphins. If the Dolphins get the 1 seed, you can't tell me that one of those guys is not deserving of MVP. Especially, they would have beaten the Cowboys in the process. They would have beaten the Ravens in the process to do that as well. It's such a key month for this MVP race. But right now, even if the Niners are the 1 seed in the NFC, I still would not give MVP to Brock Purdy because I don't think he's deserving of it because he's not adding anything to his team. He's not. He's just distributing the ball, and way less than Dak Prescott and Tua Tagovailoa are, in my opinion. I'm just saying, that's just what I'm saying. I think he's been good. I think he's been good quarterback this year, but he's not been an MVP by any means. Especially that game there, especially was not an MVP performance. Jalen Hurts' game the week before was way better. Just because you beat the Eagles and you get the 1 seed doesn't mean you're an MVP candidate. I'm sorry. Yeah. And it's why this game next week between the Eagles and the Cowboys is so important as well. Because if the Eagles lose to the Cowboys next week and the Niners and Detroit win, you then have 4 teams at 10-3, and it's just mental. It's going to be such a tight race going through the end of the season. Obviously, Philadelphia and Dallas battling for the division as well in that in that case. It's just gonna be fun. I can't wait to watch the rest of the NFC race, and then obviously you've got the NFC South, which is there's a serious possibility that the 3 top seeds in the NFC could have almost 2 times the wins that the teams in the NFC South team that wins the NFC South will have, which is just absurd. But with this Niners and Eagles game, fair play to the Niners. They absolutely dominated them. Deebo Samuel, unreal. Is Brandon Ayuk's been receiver number 1 recently? And I think Ayuk's probably the better receiver, but Deebo Samuel was a better weapon. And Shanahan did what Shanahan has always done, obviously with a bit of help from Mike McDaniel in the first year. So what Shanahan's always done, just give Deebo Samuel the ball, let him. He's your best weapon, I'd say, on the offense, other than McCaffrey perhaps. And he just basically just gave those guys the ball, and they torched the Eagles defense, which hasn't been as good as it was last year. So advantage San Francisco in the race for the NFC, I'd say, even though Philly currently lead it. I think Dallas might have a chance to beat them next week, if I'm being honest. And on that note, we'll move over to Sunday Night Football, where the Chiefs lost. They lost to Jordan Love and to the Green Bay Packers. And Jordan Love was excellent, as the Packers' playoff hopes are firmly alive now. And the Chiefs, well, their hopes, their 1 seed are dwindling a little bit. The Packers winning their 3rd straight game and their 4th win in 5. It was very close, this game, very close. We've had awesome primetime games. All 3, I think it's probably the best 3 primetime games we've had as a set this week. I think all 3 of them were great. It was a back and forth. It wasn't really a shootout, but it was quite a tight game throughout. But Patrick Mahomes made an error. It had a little bit of a sort of just chuck away throw that was intercepted by Keyshawn Nixon on the right sideline. And then Green Bay, it was a field goal game at that point. Green Bay then scored a field goal to make it a touchdown game inside the 2-minute warning, giving Mahomes one final drive to make his magic happen, and he couldn't make it work. The game ended on a Hail Mary, which was broken up. We saw a pass interference not called, defending Marquez Valdes-Scantling on his return to Lambeau Field, and it would have put the Chiefs at the goal line, but the refs didn't call that one, and instead they had two players get 50 yards without Isaiah Pacheco, who was kicked out of the game on the play previous as well. And yeah, the Chiefs couldn't do it. The game ended on that Hail Mary. And yeah, the Chiefs' offense, their struggles still continue. I was saying to myself before Sunday Night Football that I think if you beat the Chiefs, to beat the Chiefs in a minute, you have to score 20 points. If you score 20 points against that defense, which is the best defense in football, I love the Ravens' defense, but I think the Chiefs just a little bit better. I think if you score 20 past the Chiefs, you are a player. You can win. You can beat them. And you're probably a playoff team as well if you can score 20 past the Chiefs, because that defense is just so good. Everything's just happened for the Packers recently as well. Obviously they scored 27 past this Chiefs defense, so they were brilliant, and everything's just happened for them offensively recently. That it was really bad at the start of the year. I was very critical of Matt LaFleur, but in the last few weeks they found a run game, they found an offensive line, they found a quarterback. I dare I say it, maybe who has stepped up with the limited talent at receiver. The last 2 weeks, Jordan Love has been absolutely exceptional. When at the start of the year, I wasn't so convinced. So we're seeing that growth now as he's getting more and more starts under his belt. He was PFF's highest graded quarterback this week, just ahead of Tua Tagovailoa. The two of them were exceptional this week. He was a 91.8 grade, which put him in the blue, and it's which is really good. If you get in the blue for PFF grade, it means you're in the top very top echelons of your position that week, or over the season. Second straight week with a grade in the blue, as I said, and he had 6 big time throws in those 2 games as well, compared to 0 turnover worthy plays, which is really good. And that's the kind of balance you want from a franchise quarterback. So yeah, it looked awesome, and for Green Bay as well, I think that they needed a win like that, because obviously, it's just great, because it just fires up the fan base. There's something about the Packers late in the year. Matt LaFleur as a Packers coach is 16-0 in December, so it looks like that they might win. They might lose a few games, but it looks like they're going to continue rolling the rest of the year. They're not going to win the division. I think the Lions are going to win the division, but they're going to be a playoff team. I said on Friday, I said that the Rams and the Packers, for me, look like they have all the momentum, and it looks like the Seahawks and the Vikings are losing it, and it looks to be the case now. But we'll see how that pans out for the rest of the season. Again, fair play to Matt LaFleur as well. I've really criticised his play calling. It's been much better the last couple of weeks, much better. A bit of fun with that 4th and 1 shot that worked. It loved awesome throws, triple coverage. It's a bit underthrown, but the guy came back and got it, which is awesome. And the Chiefs, I don't know how they fix their offensive struggles. They're just not flowing. The offensive line's not as good as it has been. They're running the football well. Maybe they just stop the run. They just run the football more and more and more. I don't know how they fix it. They always find a way to fix their issues. Obviously, their defense is really helping them win games, and that's why I think they'll be a threat in the playoffs. But I don't think the playoffs go through Arrowhead this year, which it's gonna be a bit of an uphill battle in that case. But that's where the great teams really do rise, like a phoenix from the ashes. And we'll see how they after this loss, how they pick themselves up. With a tough game at home to Buffalo next week. So we'll see how they respond. But it just spice up the playoff. Honestly, I love this time of year, because so many things are happening, and each thing that happens has an individual consequence, and it's just absolutely brilliant. I love this time of year. Just roll it on. I can't wait for next week either. The next week's got so many good games as well, and it's a bit of a bigger slate as well. So there's more games to watch. That was a fun end to the Sunday. One of the biggest stories on Sunday obviously was the Denver Houston game. Houston coming away 22-17 winners. Their defense was what came up big this game. CJ Stroud wasn't great in this one. Obviously, the Denver defense has been one of the best units in football the last sort of 6 weeks to 2 months. They've been really good, basically, since that spanking in Miami. Houston's defense came up big this time, powering them closer to a playoff place with a win at home to Denver. Their offense was okay. Obviously, Stroud wasn't looked like a rookie in this game, but it's still an impressive rookie. They were missing Tank Dell for a lot of it as well. He was carted off in this one. He's unfortunately out for the year, which is a huge blow for Houston, and it's why it's so important they've got this win under their belt, because they probably have 1 foot in the postseason now with how other results have gone. So unfortunately Tank Dell is out for the season, which is quite unfortunate because he's been an excellent receiver for Stroud. Houston are really going to be a force to be reckoned with in the next few years of how young their team are and how good their young players are turning out now. As I said, their defense shut down the Denver offense. They forced 3 turnovers, and they gave them a huge boost towards a first playoff visit since the Deshaun Watson days, isn't it? Really, and that was quite a long time ago now. With everything that's gone on with him recently, the game was sealed for the Texans with a Jimmy Wilson. With a Russell Wilson interception to Jimmy Ward in the end zone. But it wasn't just Ward, he was great. Will Anderson was awesome too. I think he's probably got a chance of Defensive Player of the Week. If not, I think it will be Derek Stingley. Will Anderson with 2 sacks, 8 pressures, 5 tackles, 2 tackles for losses, and a pass breakup as well. Derek Stingley, obviously the 3rd overall pick last year. He's had his time, the tough year last year. Obviously injured this year too. He missed a lot of this year, but he's come back 5 weeks ago, and he's got 4 interceptions in 3 weeks, and before that he's doing pretty well as well. He's also ended a long run for Russell Wilson without an interception as well. Obviously, Stingley getting both of them. 2 of the 3 in this game. He was really good, and he's been better in coverage this year as well. So hopefully, if you've got your starting edge rusher who's awesome, your starting corner who's excellent, you've got your left tackle and right tackle who are also excellent, and you've got your quarterback, that is the foundation of a winning football team. And other than Tunsil, they're all really, really young, drafted in the last 2 years or so. So maybe in offensive line's case a little bit longer, but not 2016 like Tunsil was. This Houston team, I'm so excited to watch them in future years. I think they're going to be a contender for a long time, certainly until Stroud's rookie deal runs out. Obviously, Denver, they kept this game close throughout, actually, with their efficient football they played all year, even after turning the ball over 3 times. They've done that on all their wins in this win streak, but obviously it was Houston who put an end to that win streak. The better team won, and now it's looking very likely that the Houston are going to have a postseason berth. As for Denver, it's still quite possible, but this plus the Indianapolis win and also the Cincinnati win does also make things quite difficult. They're going to have to win quite a few of their games, at least 3, maybe 4 of their games left to reach the postseason, I think. Another team who is kind of a little bit worried now in the AFC North playoff. Not the AFC North. I spoiled it there. In the AFC playoff picture is the AFC North Cleveland Browns. They lost to the NFC West's LA Rams, and the Rams, during that win, have moved above Seattle. In not only in the NFC West but also into the playoff positions. They're in the wild card positions as it stands after a big win over again fellow playoff contenders on the other side on the other conference, Cleveland. Obviously in this one it was Matthew Stafford versus Joe Flacco. The Browns are really banged up, but they've still found themselves in a position where they've been firmly in the wild card hunt all season, and they were actually in division race before Baltimore sort of ran away with it a couple of weeks ago. I actually thought they looked better than they would, bearing on how injured they've been. Obviously they're down to their 4th quarterback, but Joe Flacco couldn't get it done. The Rams were just great though. The Rams were awesome. They've been one of the best teams in the game in the last month or so, especially the last 2-3 weeks. They've been so good. Especially Matthew Stafford, he was brilliant. I thought Flacco looked good as well. If Flacco won this game, he would have been the 4th quarterback to win a game for the Browns this season, not breaking a record, but the first time since the 60s, I think. So it would have been quite a while since that happened. The Rams offense powered by Stafford was just so good, and the Browns, Myles Garrett's banged up, of course, but they just couldn't really stop it. Kyron Williams being back certainly helped them do that as well. The last few weeks especially, but in this game he had 88 yards on the ground. And a Tyler's TD as well, and they had 34 yards on the ground from Puka Nacua too. Puka Nacua also went for 105 yards in the air and a touchdown, but he did injure his ribs, so that's something to watch over this week. And as for the Browns, their air attack was pretty good as well. Elijah Moore reunited with Joe Flacco. He had a great game. Obviously, he was with him in New York last year. One thing to watch with them is Amari Cooper. it sounds like he's got a head injury, so that's something you could obviously, it's another player who could get banged up, so that is a little bit of a worry for the Browns. But no, I think both teams impressed me, but it was just the Rams that were really, really good. It's mad to think it would have been a tie game midway through the fourth, had Dustin Hopkins not missed his extra point, and then from there the Rams just closed out the game. With the Browns offense just imploded in the process, really. Just a couple of turnovers, and the Rams just ran away with the game late in the fourth quarter, but this one was really close. Don't let the scoreline deceive you. The Browns now have a tough game against the Jaguars coming up, but obviously it's another huge playoff game. But if they're about Lawrence, then you've got backup quarterbacks, fourth string quarterback and Joe Flacco going up against CJ Beathard potentially. So that'll be very interesting to see who comes out of that and has really helps their case for the playoff position without stars. Maybe Lawrence plays in that one, but I doubt it, if I'm being honest. Cleveland, they'll be happy to know that Denver lost. It's still it might be a bit of an uphill battle for them. I think they kind of had to win this game. But we'll see. I think their schedule's pretty easy actually, so maybe they do get in. But they encouraged me even with all the injuries, and the Rams look great. And now for me, they're certainly a playoff team. Okay, we'll go over to another team in the NFC West, this time the Cardinals, who shocked the Pittsburgh Steelers, who now, I'm sure, are worried about their playoff hopes after a cruel and eventful day at the office. They lost Kenny Pickett in this one to an ankle injury. He's already been ruled out for the Thursday night game against the Patriots. And TJ Watt hurt his ankle too, but I don't think it's as serious, which is okay, but maybe, I don't know. We don't know if he plays against New England on Thursday or not. James Conner was excellent on his return to Pittsburgh. He ran all over his former team, all over him. 105 yards, 2 touchdowns on the ground. For me, there wasn't much in this game. It was pretty close if you look at the numbers, but it was the fact that the Cardinals went 3-3 in the red zone, Steelers going 1-3, and the fact that the Steelers had the only turnover in the game, which is what separated them and made it a 2-score game. A great win for the Cardinals. Obviously, they have the added flexibility of having 2 first-round picks, so if they want to make a move up or anything, they can do. But for me, obviously, for Kyler, this was a statement win for Kyler Murray. And I'd keep Kyler, if I'm being honest. I think with this coaching staff and Kyler, if you can keep their offensive coordinator around, that's the only really struggle. I think, honestly, this team will be a contender in the NFC too. So if I'm being honest, I keep Kyler and just build this roster, get Marvin Harrison in, do something like that. That's what I do, but we'll see if that actually happens or not. They're going to bye week now, a very late bye actually, the final bye week of the season. Going into win before a bye is always nice. And for Pittsburgh, they've just got to get through Thursday night against the Patriots. That's going to be an ugly affair. But win that, and then they have 10 days to hopefully get prepared for maybe one game about Pickett. Hopefully Pickett can play. Obviously, it'll be 2 and a bit weeks after then. No doubt this is a tough blow for their playoff hopes, especially if they're going to lose to the Patriots on Thursday night as well. We'll go over to an interdivision game now between the Colts and the Titans, and the Colts have 1 foot in the postseason, I'd say, after an overtime win away to their division rival Titans, going to 7-5 on the year. Michael Pittman Jr. caught a pass from Gardner Minshew in overtime for a touchdown, capping off a crazy game. And as predicted, the Titans came to play. They were so good at home this year, so bad away. So obviously they continue their good form at home, but they have lost the second home game of the year. They couldn't quite get there over almost 40 minutes of the football. But it was really just mistakes that cost them this game. They fired their special team coordinator, because that's what lost in this game, really. The Colts scored off the first of 2 block punts. Ryan Stonehouse, the punter, then got injured in the second one, and Nick Folk had to come in and punt, obviously, the kicker. The Titans actually got 2 points back after the punt block TD. Amani Hooker intercepted Gardner Minshew on that 2-point conversion in the end zone and took it all the way back up the other end. But unfortunately, Nick Folk also missed a field goal with Ryan Tannehill acting as holder, and that resulted in the game being a tie game, not Tennessee having a 3-point lead, which resulted in the game going to overtime later on. And the Colts won in overtime. The Titans scored the first field goal on the they scored a field goal on the first possession of the game, but that allowed obviously the Colts to go down the field and score a TD to win it, and did that they just. Minshew was had a lovely ball to Alec Pierce down the sideline. It was brought down inside the 5, and obviously that that throw to Pittman finished the game off. Both of those guys went for 100 yards in this one as well. They both look really good. I love the Colts. Again, another young team that I think will be really good for years to come. Titans, they had a couple injuries in this one. One with really good news, one with bad news. Jeffrey Simmons, he's got a knee injury. It sounds like he's going to be out for a while. Derek Henry, on the other hand, he went out with a really bad hit to his head. It didn't sound good for him, but he has cleared concussion protocol, so that's great news for him. Awesome news. So he might play on Monday night against Miami. Jeffrey Simmons probably not, unfortunately. Moving on to Miami, they smashed the Washington Commanders as predicted on Friday. An absolute field day for their offense. Tua and Tyreek Hill combining for 157 yards and 2 touchdowns. Obviously, Tyreek firmly on his way to 2,000 yards. And if, again, I said it earlier, if this team beats the Ravens and maybe even the Cowboys in a few weeks, you have to give one of these guys MVP, in my opinion. You just have to. It's flat out disrespect. I think Tua could go for 5,000 yards this year. He's been better than the MVP favourite Purdy and Tyreek. He's on pace for a record-breaking season. I've said enough of it. I think, if you're giving Brock Purdy MVP, then that's a joke compared to what these two guys have done this season, and Dak Prescott and Jalen Hurts have done this season as well. As I said earlier as well, the Dolphins are now not only in the number one seed in the AFC, they're also the favourite to be the number one seed according to ESPN and also the New York Times and now analytics and things. Meaning again that Week 17 game against the Ravens is just going to be absolutely huge. Obviously, the two remaining 9-3 teams in the AFC. Their defense was great in this game too, and that's sort of gone under the radar. They've been the top 5 defense in football in most numbers in the second and third quarters of the season. Hopefully, going into the fourth quarter of the season now, that they can carry it on, and because we're really starting to see the value of having Vic Fangio there rather than Josh Boyer, who they had last year. As for Washington, Sam Howell impressed me again. He didn't throw for many yards, but in the situation he was in, I thought he actually looked really good, other than the pick 6, which was atrocious. But from that, I thought afterwards, especially, he rebounded and had a good game, and he is their offense. He and Brian Robinson are their offense. Take Brian Robinson out of that team, and it was Howell on his own. I thought in that circumstance, in that situation, I thought he did quite well. And for me, especially, I think he is the quarterback for them. I really want to see him with a better supporting cast. Because this offense is fun to watch. I'd give Eric Bieniemy the head coaching job as well. I think he's more than earned it. And for me, they're one of the teams to watch this offseason. I think if they can address their glaring needs, I think they could be great next year. As for the Dolphins, I think they're probably, if the ones who can flow through Miami, that heat in Miami is quite a big advantage. Obviously, there's a lot of cold weather teams in the playoffs. That might be that might be the secret weapon in the playoff race. But this year it's been so different, and I love it. It's been such a good season because we've got new teams popping up and everything, and I just can't wait for that to for the playoffs, really. Bring them on. We've only got 4 or 5 weeks left, and after Christmas, family playoff time, and I just can't wait. Right, we'll go over to New Orleans now, who unfortunately lost another game, their 3rd straight loss. This one to the Lions. The Lions got out to a big lead, 3 touchdowns in the first 7 minutes, but they allowed the Saints to get back into this one, creating a big finish. The Lions did manage to hold on to victory again, though, which is good for them because the way they're winning these games, if they can just hold on to victories, it's good. They've moved to 9-3 now, have a greater chance at the 1 seed after the Philadelphia loss. Their defense was much better too, well, in the first half anyway. The second half, we'll talk about it in a minute, but they had a good start to this game. And as for the Saints, they played well in 3 quarters of football, maybe even the better team overall in this game, but that first quarter killed them. They were in a huge hole. They're in a huge hole after it as well. That's the thing, really, isn't it? They're great in the red zone. That's been their issue all season. They were 4 of 4 in the red zone, really. And talent-wise, they should be clearly the best team in the NFC South, but their offense has just been letting down Dennis Allen's defense. Detroit were up 3 scores at half-time, but again, it ended up being a close, high-scoring game in true Lions fashion. It might have even been more so had Derek Carr not gone out. And that's the thing in this game, really. Obviously, Derek Carr took a big hit. He was carted off. It was all a concussion, but he's also got rib, shoulder, and back pain. So I doubt he plays this week, if I'm being honest. If I was to guess, I reckon Jameis Winston plays against the Panthers, and then he probably comes back in after the game. Jameis came in, had a tip pass fall into Chris Olave's hands, just typical Jameis fashion. I love watching Jameis, but man, he's a kind of fucking time bomb on the he's like a ticking time bomb. He's great, and something's just going to blow up. But maybe that's the maybe that's what they need. For the next couple of weeks in offense, maybe they just need someone to just push forward, because they have turnovers anyway. Maybe they just need someone to push forward. I don't know. I like Derek Carr, and I think he will be a big loss, but maybe they just need Jameis in the next couple of weeks just to sort of elevate their offense a little bit and push them into the postseason. I don't know. That's the thing with the Saints. I just don't know. They're a different team each week, so literally I don't know who's going to turn up. I don't know what's going to happen. And as for the Lions, their offense is brilliant again, but this game doesn't really give me confidence about their defense. They're just getting beat up everywhere, all over the place, and for some reason Aaron Glenn's getting linked with head coaching jobs and stuff. I don't think that's a joke, if I'm being honest. Your defense is getting beat up everywhere, you get a head coaching job, then I don't get it. I think it's just because he's the Lions assistant, but yeah, that defense hasn't been great the last 2 years, really, has it? Obviously they're injured, but and they're getting sacks and stuff, but yeah, the back end, the back end is, other than Brian Branch, they're just getting beat up all over the place. They were very injured, but yeah, not the best. But at least Sam Laporta's looking good. Great find as well on the draft. Obviously in the second round, 9 grabs for 140 yards and a touchdown. Yeah, he's excellent, and I he's one of my favorite players watching. I really wanted the Dolphins to draft him. He's one of my favorite players to watch in the draft process, and I think he will be one of the best tight ends in the league in a few years' time. Moving over to another game in the NFC South, from the Saints to the Bucks. The Bucks beat the Panthers, who the Saints play next week, but they didn't look convincing in the process. They only just got over the line to prevent the new coach bounce from the Panthers. Obviously, Chris Tabor, the interim head coach for the Panthers, they stopped that, and they moved to second place in the NFC South now, I think, overtaking the Saints, I believe so. They had to win this one to stay alive in the playoff race, really, and they're now very much in with a chance to win a division, because the Saints lost again and the Falcons are they don't look convincing at all. The game ended with a Bryce Young interception to Antoine Winfield, an awesome play from him to just sort of stepping in front, coming over and tracking the ball. Bryce looked okay, but again, I can't judge him in this situation. Just move on to next year now. Weird. It was weird in this one as well. Like, it started the game, it was horrible weather. Mike Evans started without gloves. He just wasn't wearing any gloves. It looked really weird for a receiver not to be wearing gloves. And he started off with a few miscommunications with Baker, but he put the gloves on later on in the game, and he had a strong rest of the game and became the first player to carry on this 10. Well, just basically he carried on this 1,000-yard receiver. 1,000-yard receiving streak. He became the first player to begin a career of 10 straight 1,000-yard receiving seasons. Nobody's ever had more than 6 to start a career, so that's just mental. And he's been so good and so healthy as well, which is just hard to do in the NFL, really, isn't it? Brian Burns was ejected for a punch on the Tampa Bay offensive lineman in this one. It was an impressive punch, to be fair, but it just sums up the Panthers, really, because when you're probably your team's best player, you can't do that in a game you could have won. Obviously, a scrappy division game. And your best pass rusher, you're getting taken out for a punch. That's just not fun. Obviously, the Bucks won this. It's good they won it ahead of the big game against Atlanta next week. They were scrappy, but yeah. And then the Panthers, I thought they looked good, well, compared to the rest of the year anyway. They ran the ball well too with Chuba Hubbard again. A bit worried about Miles Sanders though, because they paid him quite a bit of money. He's just not getting the ball. I don't get that. Their defense play better as well. But yeah, look. They're just not good enough to win games. They're just so bad. They're just so bad. But they looked a little bit better, and the Bucks, yeah, they just scraped past. But it's good they won this one. On to Atlanta now. Two games left. 2 of the worst games of the week. 2 of the worst games I've ever seen, really, if I'm being honest. The Falcons moved the game and a half ahead at the top of the NFC South with a win over the Jets, and obviously the Saints lost to the Lions as well. So I think the Bucks moved to second, as I said. This one, as expected earlier in the week, just wasn't great. 2 decent defenses and a bad offense. And 2 bad offenses was always going to be a tight, low-scoring game, wasn't it? It really just was. The difference in this game being Desmond Ridder's first half touchdown to Michael Pruitt. They actually got Kyle Pitts involved in this one too, so fair play to Arthur Smith for doing that. But it's just because they didn't have any run game, and Drake London's injured as well. So once Drake London's injured, you have no run game. Kyle Pitts, you have to throw to Kyle Pitts then, surely, right? And Matt Collins is injured too. So yeah. Obviously another Jets game. This one without a touchdown. Had a few of those this season. Tim Boyle was benched for Trevor Siemian in the second half. It didn't make too much difference. It looks like they're going for Zach Wilson again, although Zach Wilson is reluctant to play, which I think if you're reluctant to play, why are you in the NFL? We'll see what happens. I'll update you on Friday. We'll see what happens with with these Jets going into their game next week. But I think they're just a mess. And I don't know what happens next year. If I'm being honest, I think Salah probably stays, but maybe Hackett goes. Something has to change in that building because on the offensive side anyway, because that defense is so good. And for the Falcons, as I said with the Bucks, it's just a big game next week, isn't it? Whoever wins that game, if the Bucks win that game, and the Saints win next week against the Panthers, you then suddenly have 3 teams at 6 and 7 fighting for a playoff spot. So, fighting for the playoff spot, because none of them are going to be a wildcard team, but fighting for the number 4 seed, which is just mental. The defense played well, but AJ Terrell was ruled out of a concussion, so that's something to watch. Hopefully he plays next week. Obviously he's their best corner. Jeff Okuda's been okay this year as well, but obviously Terrell's their guy. He took a hard hit, so I'm not sure. But that's crucial. And then for the Jets, their season's over now. Obviously, the smart thing to do is not play Rodgers. I don't know if they actually do that or not, but that's the smart thing to do. And then we'll finish off with the bad. This game was just so bad. The worst game I've ever seen. Chargers Patriots. Chargers win 6-0. Chargers moved to 5-7, but they're still at the playoffs. Nothing's going to happen. The Patriots moved to 2-10. I'm sorry, but both these teams are just dead. They both need humongous changes, don't they? And I'm not talking Kellen Moore as a head coach for the Chargers, because you're wasting Justin Herbert's talent. The Chargers defense won this game again, and the offense is still absent. Right, 2 years in a row, his offense have resulted in career worst years for his quarterbacks. Obviously, Dak has gone on to have a really good this year. This year, obviously Herbert's not having a great year this year as well. And that's with 2 top-tier offensive lines, with 2 good running backs, because Austin Eckler is one of the best running backs in football, and Tony Pollard last year was one of the best running backs in football, and top receiving talent. Keenan Allen, so many teams be crying out for Keenan Allen in the receiving corps, right? So many teams be crying out for a first-round pick in Quentin Johnson, and yes, he's been bad, and he's had his drops, but he's a first-round pick. There's still talent there. And then... and obviously, yes, they've lost Mike Williams and Josh Palmer, but that's still 2 first-round receivers, right? Some teams don't even have that, and yet this offense has just been diabolical the last 2 months. I'd say it's been horrific. And again, I'm a big fan of Herbert. People think I'm not. I am. I'm just highly critical because I think he's better than this. I think people think he's elite already. I don't think he's elite. I can't put him in the same category as Patrick Mahomes and Joe Burrow. I think those two are just so far ahead of anyone else, right? And people think he's on that level. He's just not. He's come on 4, 5, 6 times this season. Score a field goal in some of those games, and the Chargers could be a playoff team. They've not even led the field goal drive. I don't know. This Chargers offense just fries my brain sometimes. Hopefully get some. Just bring me on to next season with this team. Just bring me on to next season, and we'll see what happens. And as for the Patriots, well, Belichick's defense has looked good. But they're 0-4 in the last month or so. Fewest points allowed in that time, but they're 0-4 in that time. Obviously, they're 2-10 as well. Belichick's now on for the worst season by a Super Bowl winning coach ever. He broke Tom Landry's record for the worst start, and obviously Landry was fired by the Cowboys at the end of that season. Their offense is the worst I've ever seen as well, and they lost Ramondre Stevenson to an ankle injury in this game as well. I just maybe they turn up on Thursday night and beat the Steelers. Obviously, a good game in the fact it's Belichick versus Tomlin, but God, those teams are not fun to watch whatsoever. So I don't think I'll be staying up for it on Thursday night. I think that was my that's already got my notes ready for this Chargers Patriots game. Just give me next year for both these teams. I think they're just so dysfunctional, so bad. Something has to change, and we'll see what happens. But the fact it was a 6-0 football game without many turnovers, without anything like that, they're just poor. They're just poor. They're both poor football teams, and we saw that. And I think it's funny as well that the Chargers were 6.5-point favourites in this one, and they won 6-0. They didn't even cover the spread. By shutting out an opponent is brilliant. Is absolutely brilliant. That brings us this week 13 recap to an end. Thank you for listening to the podcast. Thank you for watching it. If you've been watching it on YouTube, and it's been really fun. And what a week it was! So many storylines. I've really enjoyed breaking down the league this week. It's been so fun. And I can't wait for week 14 because that Philly Dallas game is going to be so important to the rest of the season. So I think that'll be that we'll talk about that for about 20 minutes on the podcast. I got a feeling with the way of how important it is. But no, enough about week 14. We're still in week 13 technically. We've just had it, and well, what a roller coaster ride it was. I've been Sam Moores. This has been the Full 10 Yards NFL podcast, and I will see you for our preview of that Dallas-Philadelphia game as well as all the others in week 14. This has been the Full 10 Yards NFL podcast, as I said, and I'm going to say goodbye and see you next week. Bye.